Hi, English 1301 students. Welcome to week 9. I can't believe we're already here. I hope you've had fun this weekend researching and thinking about your definition for your definition essay. I enjoyed reading your ideas so far in your emails that you sent me Wednesday. I think everyone is on the right track. I've also enjoyed reading your comparison contrast essays. I feel like a lot of you are really using the paragraph form and giving me lots of detail in your paragraphs. And so I'm really excited about those. I've almost got those finished grading, and so as soon as I do this week, I will set up an announcement and let you know that those are posted to view. As far as this week goes, I'm just going to rush through the schedule really quickly because it's the same as it has been, and I want to get to a couple of extras for this week. So this week's assignments, again, are pretty straightforward as they have been for the past couple of weeks. You've got your rough draft due, then you've got peer review, and don't forget about the extra 2 mind tap assignments, your reflection, and then also your grammar assignment. So you can peruse that. Let me know if you have any questions. Same thing for item 2 on our outline this week. Should be pretty straightforward. Just a reminder about the peer review and how important it is. I know that we had some issues last week, and so I will try to make sure that those issues don't happen again. And just know that if you experience some issues, there will be grace in the grading of those, because I know that it was not your fault, and so I will figure out. I'll probably end up dropping a couple of the grades, but I'm not quite sure. But obviously it was not your fault if Turnitin did not give you something to review, and I do apologize for those of you who did not get a peer review. I hope that this week all the kinks will be worked out. Okay, so what I wanted to get to for this week is I have given you an article titled Tortillas by Tony Burciaga, and I just wanted to kind of go over this a little bit. I'm not going to go into great detail in our video because I have some other things I want to talk about as well, but I gave you this essay because I think that Burciaga does a good job of using a lot of the techniques that we talked about last week for definition. One exception to this rule is that he does use first-person narrative. So he's telling a personal story, and if you remember, in this class we are not going to tell personal stories. We want to keep our writing third person academic. So that's the only exception to this being a good model for you to use for your own definition essay, is that Burciaga speaks in that first person narrative at times. However, some of his body paragraphs are still in third person and still really good models. All in all, I like this essay because it's very descriptive and it uses a lot of the techniques that I hope to see in your own definition paragraph that you're turning in this week. So on that note, I did want to just point out some of these strategies, although I hope that you will study the essay and try and pick out as many of these as you can in the essay. I'm just going to kind of briefly and very generally talk about it as a whole. So as you read the essay, you may want to even read it before you listen to this part of the video, but hopefully you notice some of the techniques that we've talked about. Burciaga gives tons of examples to prove his point. He doesn't just tell us that tortillas are artwork, but he shows us how they are artwork by describing them in detail. He doesn't just tell us that these tortillas are very important in his culture. He gives us examples of how they are very important and where they came from. So exemplification you can pretty much find in every paragraph of this essay. Description is also used by Burciago quite a bit in this essay. I always like to point out the metaphor in, I believe it's the third paragraph, where he talks about the tortilla being the fork, spoon, plate. Everyone uses it for everything. He's making it that. He's telling us it's not just like a fork, it's not just like a plate, which would be a simile, but he tells us it is these things. So that's an interesting metaphor. Similes, I'm sure you've already found some of these. He uses them throughout the essay. He uses a lot of our different modes of writing as well. Think about the process of making the tortillas. Think about the classification and division that he uses to describe the flautas and the gorditas and what the difference between the use of the tortillas is. He uses, so process and classification and division are two big ones that we see a lot. Comparison contrast, again, he kind of compares the tortillas to different things, and like the plate and the fork and the spoon and all those funny things that he uses to make us, or to let us know more about the tortilla. He also uses some of these definition techniques that I talked about later in your notes from last week. Synonyms, negation, enumeration, analogy, origin and development, and he doesn't use a visual. But let's think about, especially like, let's see, what do I want to point out? Origin and development, of course. He has a paragraph devoted just to telling us where the tortilla came from and how it came about. He uses synonyms to tell us what the tortilla is called, again, in those different classifications. Negation, I don't know that you can find much negation in this essay. He does talk about that the tortillas were not meant to be in a factory, were not meant for that assembly line. Enumeration, he goes on and on about what we could put on our tortillas and what we use to build our tortillas. So enumeration is found. Analogies, again, with those similes and metaphors, are found throughout. And so I know this is just a very quick run through, but I hope that you will take this as a challenge and look at that essay and really see how Burciago uses definition. And I think you could use this as a model for your own definition as well. So I know this was a very quick outline because I also wanted to use the time left this week to go over a couple of PowerPoint slides. So in this week's folder, I've given you an MLA format PowerPoint. So this is going to hopefully give you everything you need to know about PowerPoint, about MLA style for this essay. Because remember, as I've told you, we are going to take MLA seriously in this essay. I want this essay to be cited properly. I have not been strict about this on your past essays, so you're going to need to be sure that you know what MLA is and follow it. So I wanted to point out a couple of slides. The slideshow that I gave you is quite a bit longer than this one. I've just pulled out a couple of the slides that I wanted to make sure to go over and hopefully explain a little bit better as you move towards using this in your own paper. Now remember, as the prompt says, you're just going to use one and maybe two sources to help you define your word. So For MLA, there's two types of citations that you have to do. You have to cite the work within your text, within your paragraph, and then you have to cite it outside of your paragraph on what we call a works cited page. This slide that you're looking at is slide number 11 on the slideshow that I gave you. Up to this point on the slideshow that I gave you are all of the formatting rules, how to set up your paper, which many of you have already discovered through this class so far. So now we get to how do we actually cite the work within our paper. And MLA simply says that we use parentheses. And within these parentheses, we use a signal word in our sentence to let us know where to go on the works cited page to find this source. So let me show you what I mean. In slide number 12, we have an example. So this author is using Wordsworth, quotes Wordsworth in the sentence, but signals that it's Wordsworth. So in the parentheses, all we put is the page number that we found that quote. If we don't use Wordsworth's name in the sentence, we have to put his name in the parentheses as well. Then on our works cited page, we have to cite him like this so that when your reader sees Wordsworth in your text, your reader knows to go to your works cited page. One example I also wanted to give you was if there's an unknown author, if it's a web page or something, hopefully you know the author. Even if it's a web page, hopefully it is an article that you know the author. But if you don't know the author, you revert to the title of the work itself. So that's what that looks like, and this is slide 15 in the slideshow I gave you. Slide 16 shows you what that would look like in your works cited page. So if you don't know the author of the text, you go to title. Again, hopefully that doesn't happen because hopefully you will know the author of what you're citing. I know this is very quick, but hopefully that gives you a good idea of in your text you have parentheses, outside of your text you have the works cited page with the full entry. So on your works cited page, this is what a works cited page would look like, for a very large paper. Yours is probably only going to have one entry, perhaps two if you cite two works. So your works cited is going to be a little baby works cited compared to this one. But this is kind of the standard, what it might look like. So this is the second page of your paragraph. You're going to have this works cited page. And by the way, this is slide 27 in the slideshow that I gave you. So MLA tells us how to cite things on our works cited page. For example, in slide 28 on your slideshow, it tells you how to cite books on your works cited page. So this is your basic format, and these are examples of books that you would cite, how you would cite them on your works cited page. Now what you'll notice in the slideshow that I've given you is it tells you how to cite books and websites and magazine articles and all sorts of stuff. And so I think that this slideshow should give you everything you need to know. Now, if it doesn't, remember that you can always go to the Purdue OWL. That's at the end of your slideshow. It tells you where to go to the website if you have any questions. And it also tells you, of course, you can ask me. I'm hoping this slideshow is going to give you everything you need to correctly cite your definition essays. I'll be looking for this on your peer review. I'll help you out there. And of course, if you have any questions about it, email me and I will help you out. I hope this gets you started thinking about MLA. I look forward to reading your definitions soon, and happy writing this week, happy peer reviewing, and I'll see you next week.